Who will be the next president of the International Olympic Committee, and why should you care? Well, it's one of the most powerful positions in the world of sport. It carries observer status at the United Nations. The International Olympic Committee owns the rights to the biggest multi-sport event in the world, the Olympic Games. It earns billions of dollars every 4 years for selling the rights and having the world tune in to cheer on their national athletes. Now, in the 120-year history of the International Olympic Committee, there's only been 9 presidents. The 9th, Germany's Thomas Bach, will reach the end of his term in 2025, so the lobbying starts now to find his successor. There's a certain look to being an IOC president. Already rumoured to be potential candidates are these 2 men, Juan Antonio Samaranch Jr., son of the 7th IOC president, and Lord Coe, Sebastian Coe, former Olympic middle distance running champion and head of the London Olympic Games bid before becoming chairman of the organising committee and now president of World Athletics. Would he like the job? Of course he'd like the job.
Look, I've always made it clear that if the opportunity arose, I would obviously give it serious thought. The opportunity has arisen, and clearly I need to think about that.
The outgoing president, Thomas Bach, will leave a legacy in keeping with his approach.
Change or be changed.
He has consistently pushed the message that the Paris 2024 Olympic Games were a games of change.
We have to be a truly global organization. We have to reflect the diversity of this world. For this new way of living, I, with my age, I am not the best captain. New times are calling for new leaders. As we look to the future, we must do everything in our power to preserve this unity in all our diversity.
And it's believed his favoured candidate to replace him is Zimbabwe's Kirsty Coventry, a gold medal-winning Olympic swimmer, the Minister for Youth, Sport, the Arts and Recreation in her country, and appointed by Bach to head up the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games Coordination Commission. Kirsty Coventry has not yet declared whether she is going to put her hand up to run for the position. Who should be the next IOC president?
To implement effectively all these projects, to address the technological tsunami of converging sciences like AI, biochemistry, and neuroscience, you need to be immersed in this digital world. You need to really participate in this digital world. You need to have a deep understanding of these new ways of thinking and communicating. Otherwise, you cannot safely navigate our Olympic movement ship through the high waves of this tsunami.
There is one thing a Seb Coe presidency would definitely change in the Olympic movement, and it may be something he decides to use as a campaign message should he decide to run. It has to do with the framework around gender, considering athletes with differences of sex development, or DSDs, and the position of transgender athletes.
Look, if you don't mind, I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts, but what I will say is you have to have a clear policy. This isn't a nice to have. You have to have a clear policy. And you have to put the flagpole in the ground, and you're never going to satisfy everybody.
The biggest controversy at the Paris Olympic Games centred on women's boxing, and 2 boxers in particular, Algeria's Iman Khalif and Taiwan's Lin Yuting, both of whom went on to win gold medals. And that was in the midst of a media and social media frenzy questioning their right to compete.
And it is a sensitive subject. Of course I recognise it's a sensitive subject, and I always try where possible to couch my own language on the basis that it was a member of my family that was being discussed in that way. But I am elected to do a few really clear mandated things. And one of those is to be absolutely unambiguous about the importance of women's sport.
The IOC framework says inclusion first, exclusion on a case-by-case basis if an unfair advantage can be proven, or inclusion would pose a safety risk beyond the risks already accepted in elite sport. World Athletics was one of the first to ban DSD athletes from sports where they excelled, a policy that has led to a decade-long legal battle with a final decision from the Grand Chamber of the European Court of Human Rights expected in the coming weeks. A more thorough or complete analysis on this topic is available on the Sports Ambassador podcast for my subscribers on Patreon.